if there was a Star Trek TV show in the 80s that was a Saturday morning cartoon and this was the live action version, that's this.
All right. I have a hot take that might be controversial with this trio. I actually liked the first half of this movie because the thing is, I knew of this movie's reputation. I knew that this was the bad Star Trek. I'm not a Star Trek fan. I knew that Wrath of Khan is the good one. I know that this was the bad one. So for the first half of this movie, I thought to myself, I don't see the problem. And then the second half happened, and I'm like, oh no, I get it.
No, I get it. I I'm I love everything William Shatner does. I'm that level of fan. I have all of the Tech War novels. That's how big of a fan I am. I love this for all of its many, many flaws. But first, I'm going to talk about what I love. And what I love about what this movie tried. And I get probably an unreasonable amount of my take on religion from this film. This film and Kevin Smith's Dogma. Because I William Shatner conceived this story in the 80s with the rise of televangelism, where people are like, oh, if you give me money, your grandma might beat cancer. Grandma didn't beat cancer, right? But he got all of her money anyway. And so he conceived this story where you had this cult leader on a quest for God, but Kirk's got to stop him, right? And I love what this movie tried to do with the idea that in cults, you can be healed. You know, you can find healing, but only through the conduit of the cult leader, right? So all of your peace and serenity is given to you by this one guy. And so if the one guy is not in the picture, then you're kind of fucked. But Kirk knows that true healing comes from within, right? And so I think this movie tried to do a lot of that. It tried. I it didn't necessarily succeed.
I respect what Shatner was trying to do. I don't think he succeeded.
Yeah.
If we're talking about the good from this movie, I would like to point out that there was a cat with three tits. And
Yes, a year before Total Recall.
was it a year? Oh, I didn't
A
realize.
year.
Wow.
I looked that up. I was like, wow, they were ahead of their time.
I
And
mean,
I think that cat was an awesome addition to the film.
Okay, can we quickly talk about how easily that cat died, though? Because Kirk just kind of threw the cat onto a pool table with some water on it, and the cat just died instantly.
yeah, that cat drowned.
Yeah,
That
like
cat lady
it
real
was the
fast.
fastest death in history.
Hmm.
It was just sort of like water bad and then just gone.
Yeah.
What I liked about that whole interaction was the cat was laying in wait, much like cats do,
Yeah.
and like as they burst through the door, it just pounced.
Yeah.
It just pounced in the most cat fashion possible.
Well, here's something I thought about too is so much of this movie has to do with brainwashing. So maybe that cat stripper was innocent and just died a totally tragic death.
Yeah. So something
Kirk, that's on your conscience.
something I love. I know why I love this movie so much is because I watched it when I was about 6. And this movie plays really well for a 6-year-old, right? Because that's about where all of the jokes are, you know. And and like for instance, the opening shot, right? It's one of those things I love where Shatner understands who Kirk is. Kirk's the guy who climbs a mountain, right? Just because it's there. I get it. Heroic figure. It's cool. And then Spock has rocket boots, which is a little silly.
Sure.
I have seen every frame of Star Trek, Pete. Rocket boots do not come up ever again. Brad, am I right?
I'm scanning, and if they do, it's one more time at most, maybe. I don't think so though.
It would be like to make fun of the Star Trek V, The Final Frontier. Like,
I'm thinking lower decks. Yeah, like it's only possible on lower decks.
it's only possible there. Lower Decks is the fun part. You should watch Lower Decks, Pete. You'd like it. I I I I love the cheese. I love the camp. I love
Yes.
I love how when he fell off the cliff, You could see it's just Shatner spinning around on a wire with obvious blue screen, right? And then right as Spock catches him, he says, "Hey, Bones, mind if we drop in for dinner?" It's a
All
dumb
right.
joke. It's a bad joke, and I love it.
Okay, so I was prepared to hate this movie, and I'm not kidding, for an hour I liked it. The movie was good until it was not. Shatner was good until he was not. The special effects were good until it was not. Um, but the thing is, pretty much around the time when there's that heel turn with the three hostages, I was like, I'm on board because it was very campy, it was very funny, the jokes landed, um, and I was just like, okay, you know what? I love being the outlier here because I'm not a Trekkie. I was like, this is just a fun movie, and what I really did love about the movie was imagining what it was like to be these people because it's just sort of like, all right, all three of us are veterans. When you're in the military, you just joke about the things that you deal with. You don't take it too seriously. And the movie for the first half did not take itself seriously. And then once our bad guy, takes everyone hostage, it's almost as though Shatner forgot how to act. And for me, the moment was when he goes B as in barricade. I was like, "What the is Shatner trying to sabotage his own movie?"
I do like, and then because by that point, the Enterprise, who that is like, it's half a ship. It's barely functioning.
That
Is
was such a funny joke throughout the movie that the Enterprise was malfunctioning and Scotty is pulling his hair out trying to make it work.
I tab that as at that point is they deserve to lose. They are taking half a falling apart ship with half a crew and sending it on a mission. You deserve to lose. Like, could you imagine that op order? It's like, yeah, there's 10 more ships out there more capable than y'all, but we're sending you.
I was in the Army National Guard for 9 years. They would.
Yeah,
We had ambulances, and one of them we knew would break down. So we would drive them in pairs, having jumper cables, right? We didn't call them jumper cables. We called them something different. And we were driving on the highway knowing one would break down so we could jump the other one, right? At one point, we had an ambulance that they had to pull over because it burned to the fucking ground, right? It caught on fire as my buddy was driving it, and they had to rescue the crew. Luckily, there wasn't a patient inside, so them sending a piece of shit out to investigate something makes a lot of sense.
with a bunch of overaged, out of shape troopers.
Yeah, that's the National Guard.
Yeah, I
I was just
I
holding
do respect that element.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was just holding Starfleet to a higher standard than the Indiana National Guard. Like, sorry.
I, you know, that was the most believable for me. Also, there's a lot of odd romances in this movie that don't have a lot of like subtext. Like you've got, so when they get to Nimbus 3, which is the planet of galactic peace, and Paradise City, but of course they say Paradise Lost on the sign because why not throw a Melville quote in there? Or reference. And you've got the Romulan ambassador, the human ambassador, and the Klingon ambassador, right? And at the end of the movie, speaking of weird romances, the human and the Romulan ambassador had like this whole off-screen romance that was never mentioned.
Sure.
And then they're just like, we we banged, and it was great. And I'm like, sure, why not? But you could tell that they were in the middle of like a writer's strike and a Teamster strike in this. Like, it's probably a miracle this movie even got finished. Because, well, like that heel turn you're talking about, where they get to Nimbus 3 and they're like, well, we got to save the people. And then Cybok's waiting there. Yeah, so Cybok walks up and says, I won't force you. The choice must be yours. Each man hides a secret pain. You must face it, share it with me, and draw strength. I feel like every time he does that, he thinks, I could just pull my dick out. Like, like when they capture the Enterprise, which takes almost no effort, and it brings me to one of my favorite terrible scenes where the rocket boots make a second appearance, and then you've
Oh
got
dear.
Spock with Kirk and McCoy on his shoulders, and they're zooming up, and then they have the levels. It goes level 47, level 56, level 62, level 56, level 77. Like, it's such a bad movie.
I was waiting for the Willy Wonka burping to get themselves down.
I it,
Like that
it
is how goofy the scene was.
yeah. And then there is a moment where Spock says, "Is it possible? Has he found Shakari?" And then 5 seconds later, he's like, "Yeah, Shakari, the center of the galaxy, where Shakari is fabled to exist." And I'm like, "But you just said, is it possible? Is he?" Logically, those are two opposite sentences, right? Like those points counteract each other.
When has Spock ever used logic?
That's his whole thing.
Waka waka.
That's that's it's literally what he's known for. And
Oh dear.
it's so
Well,
oh
you bringing up the writer strike makes a lot more sense because I feel like the second half was just ad libbed.
yeah. Yeah. Um
Mostly
question.
by Shatner. Oh, also to throw this out there, all right, so I did pull up the IMDb trivia, and I know that William Shatner and George Takei hate each other. Sulu was given basically nothing to do in this movie, and it shows.
Yeah.
He got lost on Earth. He is the helmsman of a starship, and he got lost land navigating on Earth. They put him in a corner and said, "Just be an idiot over here."
Although George Takei said that he said that while Shatner and I've had our differences, I found it wasn't terrible being directed by him.
Which is probably because he didn't have much to do.
There is that. There is that. So what do you think the best scene was in the film?
Best scene. Oh, so I have such a distaste for this movie. That's a hard question for me. So I'm honestly gonna have to say that opening campfire scene with them doing "Row Row Your Boat" very much in the public domain because we can't have copyright material on this in this franchise. Um, it's the best buddies. It's some of the best buddy stuff that you got between them. I think, and they are such a good buddy group. That was my favorite thing out of the whole movie, which doesn't say a whole lot.
Pete, what about you?
Well, my pick was also the row, row, row your boat scene, but different. I liked the first scene in Paradise City. It was so indebted to the first Star Wars, but it was like you've got all these really talented character actors just having fun.
I
I love that, Pete. Because in my notes it says that bar is the cantina. That bar is the
It's
cantina.
copy paste with three boobs.
I love DeForest Kelly facing his pain, like Bones facing his father's death, about how he had to medically assist suicide his dad, and then a cure came out 3 years later. And in this silly, goofy movie, DeForest Kelly is giving like a character defining performance where he's just like has the weight of all this guilt and grief over his dad's death. And that for me, but like me, I always gravitate toward like serious and sad things. And but I think my favorite actor is Lawrence Luckabill in this movie.
Yes, thank you. Do
He
you know
is
who his parents are?
Tell me.
I just looked this up. His mom and dad are Lucille Ball and Desi Arnaz, aka the people who made Star Trek a thing.
Absolutely.
And because I had the exact same thought, which is, wow, one of these actors is not like the others, and it's the bad guy who I thought did a really good job, and I'm sad I haven't seen him in more.
I looked at his Wikipedia and this was kind of his big thing that he had a couple other stuff, but I loved I loved when they've stolen the Enterprise and then Spock and Kirk have faced their pain and then Cybok turns to Kirk and says he's like, "Hey, it's your turn." And Kirk's like, I need my pain." And then Cybok says, "Oh, we're going to Shakari. I had a message from God, and he told us to go there." And Kirk says, "Oh, you're mad." And Lawrence Luckabill becomes this character. He kind of turns inward and he questions himself and says, "Am I? Am I? You're like, am I mad?" The character isn't sure, but he's just going with it. And I'm like, "Holy shit, he is acting his ass off in this movie."
I do kind of wonder if the critical reception of this movie hurt his career, which is a shame because I thought he was the best actor in the movie.
Absolutely. And
Derwin, do you think he would have been better than Sean Connery?
yes.
There's a reason I asked that. Sean
Well,
Connery was originally considered for the role.
I'll agree with Derwin. I feel like Sean Connery might have been too acting.
He would have owned the
Like,
movie.
I feel like Connery would have looked at this movie and said, "Oh, this is a paycheck." And Lawrence Luckerbill looked at this movie and said, "I'm going to act my ass off at this. I'm going to take this 100% serious."
agreed. I think this was like Lawrence Luckenbach, Lawrence Luckenbeck. What's his name?
Luckerbill.
I think he
Luck
saw
and Bill.
Luckabill. I think he saw this as a huge opportunity. Whereas, as you pointed out, Sean Connery would have been like, "I'll go through the motions," but
Yeah.
he also had that star charisma that I feel like he would have stolen the show regardless, but like not necessarily the good way.
Yeah. Yeah. No. And then when they go, and another thing, like I know the budget ran out. I know they couldn't use industrial light and magic, so they had to go with like some dude in his garage for the special effects.
Which looked awful at the end.
Again, Saturday morning TV show. And so when they get to the Great Barrier at the center of the galaxy, they're like, "No one's survived it. We can't get through." They just fly right through it. Like, and then they get to the planet of Shakari, which is in honor of Sean Connery.
I thought that was clever.
Yeah,
Shakari.
yeah. And Lawrence and I'm just gonna call him Larry from now on. Old Larry, man, when he meets God, he's got this religious fervor in his eyes. He goes, "Oh man, I was right. I might have been crazy, but no, I was right. A mystical beast was giving me voices in my head." And and I love everything about that performance. Everything else in the final act is terrible.
Wait, with one, I thought a good callback was them at the campfire at the end.
There is that.
And Spock is singing "Row, row, row your boat." That was a good arc.
Yes, there is
He's
that.
playing it on his lute,
Yeah,
on his
I
Vulcan lute.
because the thing is, the second hour of the movie, I was just banging my head against a wall, and then in the last scene, I'm like, that was nice.
Yeah.
They stuck the landing slightly.
I know the climax of the film, Shatner originally wanted a bunch of like angels, but like demonic angels in a river of fire, like the river Styx. And then they're like, "Well, that's too much." Then it's like, "Oh, we'll just have rockmen shoot out of the ground." And then they can only afford one rockman. And there's this deleted scene where it looks like, do you remember the putties from the Power Rangers in the 90s? It looks
Yeah.
like,
Well, I did read that the proposed ending inspired Galaxy Quest, which is the best thing that Star Trek: The Final Frontier did for movies.
yeah. And And so it kind of ends, the movie ends the way, of course, it would with Captain Kirk. um, just kind of being a dick to God. And then they just,
It felt very Shatner for Kirk to sacrifice himself for his troops and then have a Deus Ex Machina save his life.
oh yeah, no, definitely. Like I love that.
That's how you know Shatner directed this.
Yeah. Well, because like the Klingon, the whole even you don't even need a Klingon in this, right? Like you could do the whole thing without the Klingon. Now the Klingon is like their weird way to get them out of the whatever, but like the Klingon ship is supposed to like increase dramatic tension or whatever maybe, but also that problem is solved by like kind of a shitty general saying, "Hey, maybe don't." Like they tell Commander Claw's dad, and then he makes him apologize.
I thought that Klingon was the worst actor in this movie, and this movie stars William Shatner.
Yeah. One thing that I wish this movie had, and Pete, you might not know this because you haven't seen all these movies religiously like Brad and I have, is in Star Trek 3, well, in Wrath of Khan, Kirk finds out he has a son. And, well, no, he's always known he has a son, but his baby mama says, "Hey, stay away from the kid because you suck as a person," right? And so Kirk stays away. And then in Khan, he runs into his son. His son punches him in the face. And then they kind of make up Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. Kirk's son dies. And so then Star Trek 4 is a time travel thing with whales. So what I wish happened in this movie is that they address Kirk's like, dead son or whatever. They do it in Star Trek 6, but his name was David Marcus. The character's name was David Marcus, and I'm like, oh, Kirk's a shitty dad. Like he's a terrible father, right? Because his kid got murdered, and he doesn't really do a whole lot about it. In Star Trek 3, he violates all these rules and then grabs Spock and then goes back in time, right? Like he knows how to like travel back in time to save people, right? He does all this stuff for Spock. He gets demoted, he gets court-martialed, but for his kid, he doesn't do shit. And so when Star Trek 5 happens, they don't even mention him. And I don't know. And maybe it's because like I'm a dad now myself, but I'm like, oh, Kirk's a terrible father. Like,
I'm so glad to be the outsider here. Just that voice of the layman.
yeah.
Like, and my dad would be furious because my dad's a huge Trekkie and would take me to the sort of uh like God, what is it? Picard era Star Trek movies.
Yes.
Of which I've got mixed feelings, but that's true of all Star Trek
We're
fans.
we'll get to those at some point, Pete. Um, but yeah, no, don't get me wrong. I am a huge Kirk fan. And I love how when they developed his character, they're like, yeah, he's a great war hero. He's a shitty dad. Brad, what do you think?
Um, I think it's a very salient point you bring up, Derwin. I don't think Carol Marcus said, "You go away, Jim, because you're a bad person." She's like, "No, you're going to be the world's worst fucking father." There could not be a worse man for the role of someone's father.
Yeah.
Um, he has no interest in anything to do with stability and being somewhere, being in one place longer than 15 minutes. And that's a quality in a father that you really need. So absolutely.
I have a question for the two of you who've seen every Star Trek thing ever. Are Scotty and O'Hara a thing?
Only in
In
this.
this movie, yes.
Yeah, no, they're like totally like a couple. I'm like, wait, when did Scotty and O'Hara become a couple?
I I went over that with Durham before you got in today, and we said, like, was this just like, hey, we've been in space for 15 years, we've gone through everybody else, so it's our go around, and that just happens to be happening at the time this movie is set. Like, hey, yeah, might as well do you now.
It was so weird. Like the thing is, I remember. So one of the few Star Trek movies I've seen was the 2009 reboot, I guess. And then the thing is, everyone was like, "Wait a minute, so Uhura and Spock are a couple?" But that made sense. This was just sort of like, sure, Scotty and Uhura are a couple.
I
It's
so
like they agreed at one point if they got to the age of 40 and hadn't found someone else, like that's where they were.
Sure.
like so to tie it all up with a bow, the Scotty and Uhura thing makes sense only because they all got a job, right? Like let's say this is a real military. They all got a posting. They got a badass posting when they were like 25. And then they retired there. They stayed there for like 35 years, right? And so
Yeah.
that's weird. In the military, you go places and you get transferred. You don't stay in the same command till you die. And so but it makes sense. They're the only people they know. Kirk only really cares about the people on the bridge of the Enterprise. So I'm wondering how long Kirk and Spock dated. That's my question to you two.
Ooh, you're bringing up Spurk, or isn't that the
Kirk.
fan created
I thought it
Spurk?
was. I thought their name would be Cock.
I mean, if you're gonna do it, if you're gonna do it,
I mean, in that regards, is there a name for Scotty and O'Hara, like a portmanteau? Skahura?
that's
A hootie?
yeah,
A hootie? A hootie sounds way better.
a
A hootie.
hootie,
Hootie and the Blowfish.
a
Like the thing
hootie.
is, if they're all just casually fucking each other, that makes perfect sense for the military.
Mhm. Yeah, I
Yeah.
know that.
Like especially if they're like stationed together for like 50 years. Like there's a lot of round robining.
Exactly my theory.
If I was gonna summarize this film in one line, it would be William Shatner yelling, "Let me do something!"
Well, I mean, like the thing is, if you look at Leonard Nimoy's filmography, he was a very like talented director. And Shatner never likes to be second to anyone, so this movie just had to happen.
Yeah, that was his pretext for signing on for Star Trek 4. Was like, if I do this, then I get to direct five. So here are my questions. One, what scene looks the cheapest? A, Kirk falling off the cliff. B, anytime the shuttle landed in the shuttle bay, which is apparently just a two-car garage. C, anytime a phaser is fired or we see the Enterprise from the outside. Or D, literally any special effect.
Has to
D
be A.
literally in special effects.
Has to be A.
A was number two, but the whole ending looked like it was made by me.
That you can all you can see in that scene is the green screen. It is so bad, that scene.
Yeah.
I expected a
Well,
weatherman to pop out and be like, and tomorrow there's a low pressure front coming through the valley and it'll be raining by 8. Like it's
you know,
that green screeny.
I will say this: the best special effect was convincing us that 50 something, 280-pound William Shatner was free climbing a mountain.
El Capitan.
Yeah, it was just sort of like I was like, wait, who's climbing the mountain? It's William Shatner, way past his prime. They edited that scene well.
I and this is going a little bit off track, but you can tell in Star Trek 3 when there is a stunt double from behind because I'm like, oh, that guy is like pure muscle, right? Like and then he goes to the front and I'm like, oh, that guy's not pure muscle. William Shatner's ass, not that nice. Not a 1984.
I will say this: what was funny about the movie, and again, the half I thought was genuinely a comedy. Part of that was just seeing Captain Kirk, one of the most iconic characters of all time, wearing dad jeans.
Yeah.
I was just sort of like, okay, that's very humanizing. I like that.
So
He
my
looked
second
great in
question,
those jeans.
Pete, if you have any closing thoughts about the film.
I'm so glad I finally watched it because I knew of its reputation. I know of the whole no, sorry, odd Star Trek rules. So it's nice to know I've seen the worst, and that if I ever do another podcast with you, it's only up from here.
Yes. Brad, thoughts?
This movie exists in a really tough spot. It is directly following up the best movie in all of Star Trek, and maybe top five movies of all time, The Voyage Home, and then it's also right in front of The Undiscovered Country. It exists in a really bad spot. Maybe I'm too critical on it because of that. But this movie is just fraught with errors.
Well, I get what you're saying because, you know, you've got Wrath of Khan, Search for Spock, Voyage Home. That's the holy trilogy of Star Trek movies. Then you got the Final Frontier, which is like a real misstep, and then they course correct in a hard way back to Undiscovered Country. So it's yeah, it's when stacked up against that, it doesn't hold up. But like if you don't, I would say my final thoughts are like if you love Star Trek and don't really have a lot of expectations, you're gonna have a good time.
I give it a B, as in barricade.